Brackett. Bill Burrows.
Here.
Mike Finnegan.
He's sick.
Tim Garlett.
Here.
John Stutzman.
John Stutzman is on his way.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, hope everyone had received their minutes. So you'll still get them from Janie as an email, and then they will be on this computer. And this is accessible through Janie or through the city's website. Any of the previous minutes, attachments, or anything else on them. So it was suggested to me, we don't really need to print everyone out and keep the paper. Okay, consideration of public comments. Those wishing to address the Airport Advisory Commission need not request permission in advance. Action taken as a result of public comments will be limited to directing staff to study the matter or rescheduling the matter for consideration and decision at a later time pursuant to ARS 38-431 at all. Okay, reports.
Mr. Chairman, we need to go back to the prior meeting minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, you want to, let's see. Let me get to my spot here. And, okay, I'm on the minutes.
I have two minor corrections that I found. They're grammatical in nature.
Okay,
On item number 5, the fourth line down after the start of the second paragraph, which starts on motion, commission can make a plan to propose to the city council or to the council members and eliminate the word and add the word to after propose.
do you have a problem with that, Janie? We can change it on motion here. So, yeah, we left it open that it can come back here once there is
Right.
some idea for a plan.
Yeah, it's just,
Okay. And the other one?
no, that's the one.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor of that correction?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Did we get a vote from Tim?
I voted aye.
Okay,
But you made the motion and you seconded.
Yes.
He made the motion, I seconded it. Oh, I made this motion.
Right.
He seconded it.
Right.
okay.
Did you have corrections?
No. So I move that we approve as corrected.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Did Tim vote?
Sorry. Sass.
Tim? Aye. Okay,
That's an aye.
so we've got all ayes for the correction.
And all ayes for the,
Accepted.
And accepting the minutes,
There you go.
correct.
All right.
Cover sheet, okay, now. How do I go to the next sheet after the cover sheet?
Well, let me help you.
I don't think anything is plus.
X that out right there. Okay, so you want to go to this?
Yes. Okay, now we're on the Okay,
Business Park.
wait a minute, the same sheet came back up.
Okay, so you're there, and there are no attachments to it, so that's all you have. So we could just get an oral
Okay.
report.
All right, so we have a business park staff report. Minute?
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners.
I know how to use it.
Just want to update you guys on the Shock Center project that we're tearing down some buildings on some land that we have. We've had 2 of those buildings come down already, and we're in the process of 3 additional buildings on the property that are set to come down within the next couple months. So it looks really good. Once they level it all, we're going to be able to assemble 3 parcels right there and get those up for sale. Yes.
Are one of those the Shock Center?
Yes, that is the Shock Center.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And we did, been working with the PD and the sheriff. They've done some events, some training out there recently as well in between, you know.
Yeah, you get
Our
the fire department, they could have burned them down.
A lot of concrete, but
Yeah. Doesn't burn too well.
yeah. So we're excited about that. You know, obviously it's going to clean up the park a lot in that area. If you drive by, it's really blighted and a hazard. So update you that we recently finalized a foreign trade zone report, and that report can be accessed through our website at choosekingman.com, and it's under the reports section. You can download the report there, read it, and you know, it took about a couple months to put that together. It goes into detail of quite a different, you know, about our past, foreign trade zones, some of the complications we have, and where we might go from there. So please feel free to go in and read that report. Stormwater requirements on the industrial park side. We put together a letter that we sent out to our park tenants notifying them of some of the recent changes. So just, you know, being a good neighbor, keeping everybody updated on things that they might need to look at when it comes to their property. Job fair was completed this last month with Cascades. It went really well. They had about 35 applicants come through, and there are companies talking to those applicants. We had that in our building there at the administrative building in the garage. Yes.
How many employees are they looking for?
So what that was is Cascades is going to be closing down their operations, and what it was to set those employees up with other businesses looking for employees. So they had multiple tables within our garage to interview potential employees for their businesses. Land sales, don't really have anything to update you right now on there. I think the last one I updated was the interstate trailer sale that happened. They're going to be building the dump trailers from the location that they bought and then adding onto our property. That was a $40,000 land sale took place. So with that, you know, rail, I'll just update you on some of the lines or some of the car numbers. Here, hold on one second. I forgot the paper there.
Sure.
Revert back to the paper instead of the touch screen, right? So we have, for January, we had 122 carloads come in, and we had 330 stored cars on the park. 330 stored cars. You compare that to 2019, January, we had 169 cars that were delivered into the park, and 298 stored cars. That was 2019 of January.
Thank you.
All right. With that,
Nothing went-
that's my update. Any other questions?
We'll see what happens.
I
No.
have none.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Airport staff report.
Again, up front, I will apologize. This format is still the same format we've had the last few times, although you'll see some trends here, just in this setup. You'll notice the fuel flowage for January, total of 11,000 gallons and change, 8,610 gallons Jet A, and the remainder avgas. The financial update, again, the first one you'll see is 2019. So the key here is you're going to want to look at the second page, July of 2019 to present. When you start looking at some of the revenues and you start comparing this year to last year, there's some differences. It seems to me, and I've not talked to the finance director, that we're not doing as well as we could. But again, I'll let you do the comparisons there and get a sense of that. This is sort of off topic, but the last week we've been focusing on the budget. It's a new system for us. It's a new setup. A lot of labor in putting it together, but once that's done, future years, it shouldn't be a big deal, but it has, and it's the operating budget we're speaking to that we've been working on. FAA and ADOT coordination, we continue to move forward on the runway grant. We had about 2 weeks ago, the surveyors out here and coring done. We only shut the airport down for one night. All the coring's been done. No odd things were found in that. And that was both the runway and Bravo taxiway. Again, the goal is to go to bid in April, and the grant has to be executed no later than May the 18th. So in other words, we have to have everything signed and back to the FAA by that date. So far, everything's looking good that way. The ADOT grant offer for $190,000 for taxiway Bravo on the design, that will be going to the City Council at their next meeting on March the 17th. So the report's in. We appear to be moving forward on that. In regards to the master plan, the next tentative date, which will be the last date for the master plan for the airport, April or early May of this year. And then on the 1,800-acre land release, we will be having a meeting probably in late March with the FAA in regards to that. So that is moving along. In regards to airport development and maintenance projects, the DROS site report, we've seen the draft. I believe that as was outlined by our DROS people, that will be sent back to Department of Justice. Then they will send it around in their different departments, and then they will throw it back at us, and then we will go into negotiations back and forth. So it's not as straightforward a process as we'd like, but we're moving on that. Airport operations budget, as I mentioned, I think the deadline for that is today. So I believe we'll be going back out to the airport, getting that done and input so that we can move forward on that. I continue to reach out to folks in regards to the aircraft storage industry, what works, what doesn't. In fact, somebody who was working on trimming trees at the place that I live had happened to work for a local company and had lots to share, which was very enlightening. I'm in the process of researching the ownership of Mojave and Flightline Drive. The premise behind that is the possibility of grant inclusion if we still own those. And I don't find anything that says that we don't, but I also find that the paperwork is very, at best, nebulous. But the premise basically is if we own them, then it's a possibility we could get federal money from the FAA when those need to be upgraded or rebuilt. So that's the premise. And again, we are still in the process of continuing to put a policy together for going after folks for non-payments. We are in the process of doing a weekly tally on all of the airplanes on the GA ramp. So you'll see us out there marking all those down, and then we will find out what aircraft are abandoned. There are two that I can think of right off the top. We've got a DC-8 that Cassie's not taking credit for, that might have just parked there. It's been here 3 months. I have the owner's address and name. They'll be getting a bill. So we're working that through. More to it than you'd think, but the CIP, as you all know, has been drafted. We have, we hope, 5 grant projects scheduled, so nothing new there. We are working to outfit the pilot's lounge, so we're going after some furniture for that. We have some, but adding some additional furniture in there, and then some artwork that'll be put in there as well. We are in the process, and I believe Lisa has met with our chair in regards to a punch list for the terminal, of which there are about 26 items, and we'll be moving forward on that. That will probably really start to take off as of about a month or so from now. The other thing that we are in the process of doing is beginning a fence project. So the fence around the terminal will be relocated. The 4-foot fence on the side will all go away. There'll be a airport security fence in those areas, the standard height. The building itself will become the fence. And about the time we change the combinations out there at the airport on the terminal, that will all occur as well. And at the same time, we'll be doing some landscaping work. Now again, the landscaping work will be on the north side. So if you're coming off the flight line, you come through the gate, there's kind of a Y sidewalk routine going into the building. On the north side of the Y, that will all be landscaped. And right now, the approach we're going to use is taking out the old flagpole, which has been there for years and years and years. And all of the lawn goes away, and hence all the gophers will go away, or moles or whatever they are. And then some form of a rockscape in that area. Now, on the other side of the Y going towards the control tower, that will remain turf. So we'll have to get somebody out to mitigate the gophers or moles or whatever they are in that area.
I have a question about
Certainly.
the fencing. How will you incorporate the patio to the restaurant?
It'll be on the air side.
Yeah, it'll be on the air side. So the patio will,
So people,
for all intents and purposes, stay the way it is. So if you want to go out to the patio, you'll either go through the building will be the fence at that point, and boom, you're out into the patio. Or there'll be at least one gate on one side of the building that you can go through and around the building over to the patio.
so the general public will be authorized to go into the secure area?
That is correct.
That's pretty
Now,
common.
and
believe it or
the
not.
other key to that is going to be the restaurant closes at 2:30. And we'll probably put some form of signage up so they will be able to go out there. Now, I was going to say what we've seen. We have not done this yet. Typically, people do not go very far beyond the where the landscaping currently is. So I'm hoping and anticipating that we're not going to have people wanting to wander out on the air side.
Will there be a controlled access from inside to outside?
During the hours of business of the cafe, no. After the cafe closes at 2:30, you will have to have a combination to get into the building from the air side. So at that point, the public will not be able to get out there.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see here. gate combination changes, again, we'll start that process when we get the remodel done. The airport stormwater permit has been completed. There was training for a number of aviation tenants who have dovetailed under the permit with us. The permit cost around $5,000 or $16,000 to dovetail under, depending on the amount of property you have on the airport. It's anywhere from $300 to $500. So it really was in their best interest to utilize us as the main permittee. But I can, and I think Janie can speak to the fact that if you didn't have the training, there's no way that you could figure this thing out. It was not user-friendly in any fashion. Repairs are ongoing on the 15 kV regulator that powers the lights for taxiway Delta. We had thought it was going to cost $16,000. We got a control board from an outfit and a gentleman who used to manufacture these things for that same company. So if all works well, knock on wood, we will have a $3,000 improvement, which will get the light circuit back up. And that's been worked on last week, and hopefully here in the next few days it'll be back and up. Our Kubota, which is the only thing that we have that sort of resembles a mini tiny backhoe. The axle seized today. I don't know if Public Works will rebuild it or what. One of the things that we're going to put in the budget for this coming year is a real big person backhoe, new. That means that basically, much like the New Holland tractor that you've seen out there, and the fact that we no longer have tumbleweeds the size of this room rolling across the airport, thanks to that tractor, same dynamic. It'll increase productivity if approved. With the Kubota, basically it's sort of a lawn tractor that we've used out there way beyond its capacity. I mean, we've gotten really good use out of it, but tiny piece of machinery for that much acreage. We've had another group approach us in regards to, I believe it's 4 Embraers that they are in the process of purchasing, that they're going to strip the parts from and then reduce to spares. So that'll be another few airplanes that goes away. The Frontiera group, they continue to fix and fly out CRJs. Their current fleet on the airport is 5 airplanes, 4 out in the infield and 1 on the ramp. So they're scheduled anytime soon to be basically coming back to put a couple engines that they truck in on that airframe and then send it down to Lubbock, Texas for modifications. And the Fillmore group, I need to do an agreement with them for another 2 CRJs that get scrapped. Ameriflight just called me this afternoon. They will have their first airplane, Metroliner, Fairchild Metroliner, show up tomorrow about noontime, and then another 2 this week on top of that. And they'll have a total of 10 out on the tie-down ramp in long-term storage, in this case, roughly a year.
And these are new aircraft to the area?
That is correct.
And they're not going through Kingman Airlines service?
That is correct, yes.
Thank you.
Yep. And then I continue to work with the 99s, a national group of women pilots that date back to 1929 in regards to air race start here in Kingman in 2022. I'm researching some details that have to do with density altitude. They want to do their event the 3rd weekend in June of 2022. So I will be talking to some of the folks at Lake Havasu that have done this before to find out what maneuvers, because density altitude will possibly be an issue for them if they do their aircraft checkout over our airspace. If they head out towards a little bit towards the west, won't be such an issue. But again, I need to do some verification on that. Hangars, you can see the occupancy is pretty much the same old. Not a lot's changed there. And of course, the EA for the 1,800 acres I mentioned. And then again, the Airfest, I believe we are shooting for October of 2020. I believe a date's been set. And with that, any questions in regards to the report or any other matters?
I have one kind of comment. There will be some signs at the end of the walkway that says pilots and passengers only. And then there's about a 2-foot strip of grass on the other side of the walkway before you get to the ramp. That will become some large rock that you would not ordinarily step over. So you kind of get funneled into the little pathways that say pilots and passengers only. And I believe the fencing is supposed to start the 1st of April.
Okay.
That's what she told me. So things are moving along. Most of them, the other items are just make it look better where there's wood that wasn't painted, little repairs that need to be done. There's a phone booth there that hasn't worked in years. You know, get rid of it, clean up the thing, and make it all look as well as we can. Not resheeting the building or anything like that. Any more? Did I forget something?
I just wanted, it was hard to hear the date for the fest. Confirm that the date is October 10th.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Okay, I guess we need to talk about this meeting packet process. Are you giving us that story? I know this thing faded out, and then it came up the next time with icons, which totally lost me. So this time it faded out, and I did it in the same thing, hit it twice, and now I'm back on the agenda. So there are obviously buttons to push that you shouldn't push, and you got to push the right ones. I don't know. I really work well with paper when there's directions. I can follow 1, 2, 3, 4. But to me, a computer has never been intuitive. It's when you push the off button to turn it on, I'm already in trouble. And it goes downhill from there usually. Can't tell you how many have gone in the dumpster that I've bought. So I don't know who is in charge of that. I may be the only one that needs some operational assistance with this thing.
Trust me, Carl, you're not the only one.
Oh, well, that's nice.
As I understand it, this is a citywide thing for all the commissions and the city council, these iPads. And I believe Janie had training for this a week or two ago, and I believe it's across the board. Should any of you continue to need printed agendas, I don't have an issue with that. And again, I'm a paper guy as well. I'm a dinosaur and readily admit that. But I believe this is the new approach for commission meetings and city council meetings, I believe.
Well, I'm sure I can get agreement from others, because most of you commented to me how much paper we end up with everything that's in it for a meeting, with minutes and all the attachments and so on, and what a waste of paper it is. So that part I have no problem with. It's just operating this electronic machine. But I'll get there. Okay, anything else in the packets? All right, old business, airport website. Did you cover that?
All right. Bennett and Lisa have been providing the update. And currently, I guess the scheduled launch of the new website is March 15th. And that's pretty much the information I have on there.
Okay, and what is the process to get something put on the website from somebody other than city staff?
I probably have to have proof there, but be able to add something to that.
So please email it to Lisa, and we'll take a look at it and what the items are that want to be listed, and then staff will decide if it's appropriate to go on the website.
I got that question today from Mike. He's sick, but he wanted to know how he can get something that's aviation related on the website, and I don't think he had anything specific in mind today, but that's, I think, the thing everybody needs to know, and is head of the EAA and also Airfest. A lot of it, I'm sure, is going to come from Tim.
Yeah, there is a link on the design of the new website, so that website page as well. So we did arrive at for that. I looked at the sample. So there is it, but you're correct. We should have, I don't know if there should be a link in to contact somebody about the website. Or if we just go via the plan.
I would say currently, if he's got something within the next few days, to just email it to Lisa. Once the site gets up, the contact us section can, depending on what the user's looking for, we'll be able to get a notification under that system to then bring up whatever the issue is or whatever the topic is they want to talk about with regards to the airport, which includes the website or any of that information.
All right, thank you. Anything else on the website?
Not for me.
Okay. Mission statement. Charles put this on my desk, or my table here just a little bit ago. You should have one in front of you. Hopefully don't want to beat this to death, but would have helped if we'd had it earlier. Do we want to read it and go through it now, or do we want to read it and go and include it in our minutes, get any other comments from people, and bring it back with ready to say this is it, or change these two words and this is it?
Well, as we know, we've been kicking this around for a while, and at our last meeting, we had several examples to go from, and we talked about a possible format or outline. And I have developed this draft mission statement, which includes our mission statement, our vision statement, as well as our core values. And we've been able to include almost all of the comments in previous submissions. And we tried to word them in a manner or form them in a manner that's consistent with other mission statements. And so that's our draft. We can certainly leave it for the commissioners to review, or we can take a minute and go over it right now, and if there's only minor corrections, we can make those.
Well, we're missing three, and that reason alone, I'm inclined to say, let's be ready to hash it out and finalize it next month.
Okay.
I move we table the, go ahead, Tim.
Can I add something real quick? I don't believe I have a copy of it, so yeah, I'd like to be able to have a chance to review it.
Yes, you'll get it as the minutes. When do you think you'll have the minutes out, Jeannie? Can you get at least this out to all of the commissioners soon? The proposed mission statement, so they have a chance to discuss it and evaluate in terms of everything they already have and know, rather than just wait until a couple days before our next meeting.
Actually, I'll send it to you electronically, Janie, and then you can forward it to the commissioners? Okay.
Yeah, that should be easy. Okay.
I move that we table this mission statement until the next meeting.
Second?
Second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, yes, we got all ayes. No noes. So we'll table the mission statement. Okay, the railroad, we need a staff report on that.
Yeah, it's not on the
Oh,
agenda.
no, that would have been on the report, but I'll bring it up as announcements.
You had some questions, Mr. Chairman and Commission, from last time on the railroad piece. It certainly is separated from the aviation side. Maybe your concern was that what was its effect. The contract was originally signed, this is a point of information, in 2014. It expires in 2024. We went through the contract in detail. They are meeting all the insurance requirements. They have 30 million aggregate and 15 million per occurrence. And we are currently holding a current certificate of liability. The one thing that I would just add to this is Patriot Rail is becoming an excellent partner for us. We have lately been working on 2 projects, one of which Patriot brought to us. The other one came via another route, but in both cases, there are substantial rail considerations, and so they have stepped to the plate in both the design and a number of items that we would have to address within the park to accommodate both these. So I don't see any action on this, but this is a point of information for you on them. So.
I don't know if you have any hard, I don't think you have any hard data yet, do you, from the FAA, Steve?
In regards to,
As far as their interest in this airport land, diversion or non-diversion, or who cares?
my understanding in the conversations I've had to date in regards to any of the industrial land existing, or the rail line existing, that's not a concern to FAA, as long as aeronautical revenues are not pumped towards those. If it's industrial revenues, they're fine with all that.
This was one concern, since it was airport land when it was transferred, but for at least 20 years, as railroad land, it was worthless. So how could the FAA care too much? How can you sell, a few feet of right-of-way? Somebody could buy the whole thing, I guess. But given the economics and the fact that it doesn't touch the airport anymore, I was hoping that would be the position of the FAA. So now, that's not a worry. I think that whatever happens there, we don't have to suck money out of it for the airport itself. It could be part of the industrial park, or it's city revenue. I too went through every paragraph of that contract, and I couldn't find any pit holes in there. But they have to have their insurance. There's things that you have to know that they comply with, inspections and that type of thing. And as far as I know, they're in compliance. I have no reason to believe otherwise. But it's the money that comes into the city from Patriot Rail, because you get some of the money. My hope was, and it probably, you need to go a little step further from the city attorney or somebody, that this could fund some maintenance expenses for the industrial park. And but it needs like another management entity and somebody who is at least paying attention and knows they have they're a city employee and they run a railroad, so to speak, without any operational. So that's, I think most of us were the opinion that at least there should be some lines drawn and a box put around it, and it's not something as part of the airport that we have to worry about anymore. But the city has willingly, taken that on, and I don't want to broadside the city.
No. Well, a couple of things. Number one, we have found that with BSNF and with Patriot, and also with the one contractor that they both utilized, we've just found tremendous support. Because right now, that rail is becoming critical for some of the people that are considering this area. So the rail is playing a vital role because of the weight stuff that these folks are requiring, so.
Well, we have some using it
Yeah.
very heavily now,
Yeah,
too.
well, we are blessed. We have an excellent siding, and that's what BSNF likes. We've got the siding, so again, it's one of those right place, right time, so.
Well, can the city come to us with, okay, we'll take responsibility for this, and it's no longer in a plan to use it for, hopefully use any money for right-of-way maintenance along the roadway that's not roads and not private property?
Chairman Hayes, I'd have to run that by the city attorney. I don't know what that answer would be yet on that, so.
Because otherwise it just carries on with the money going, I mean, I guess the airport could use the
Well,
money, I guess, but.
Goes into the pool, but it's almost like the leasing money. It's, it aids in the operation of, as opposed to the capital investment, so.
Right.
Yeah. But we certainly can double check that with our city attorney.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
For Mr. Kellogg. I think I heard you say it's not really the airport's concern. Who owns that property that all the railroad sidings are on?
Well, it's all incorporated into that there. The sidings belong to us.
The city.
The city.
The city owns those sidings?
The railroad inside, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They operate on an operating agreement to run internally now because any siding that is put into any business, that business pays for that in its entirety.
I understand.
To bring it into.
But the city maintains the property that it's on?
Right.
Well, maintenance is by contract.
It's included in their contract. They maintain all the rail.
Okay.
And the appropriate sidings and the appropriate property associated with the rail system. So we've not had any issue like that with them. Whatever needs to be repaired, they take care of. They did the signs too, even for the rail, correct? They put in the warning signs. They did all of that.
Okay, I hear a lot of theys. Are you talking about the business owner
Patriot.
that brings a siding in?
He pays for that.
The business owner?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and then it is turned over to the city. The siding is turned over to the...
The siding comes onto their property.
Okay.
It's their responsibility. So then they take care of that siding. We bring it, Patriot Rail brings it up to that point, that switching point, and then it goes in, and then it's on their property.
Okay, so anything that's on their
rail,
property
public
is the
rails.
business owner's
Correct.
responsibility. All of the other siding, I understand what you said, is taken care of contractually by Patriot.
Correct.
Okay. Who is the contract written between that went from 2014 to 2024?
It was between KAA and the Patriot Rail.
Okay, and since the city took over the airport,
lapped
it
right
reverts
over.
to the city.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
Hey, thank you.
Okay.
Aircraft.
User group status.
Abandoned aircraft.
I guess we recommended that the user groups meet with you quarterly.
Yes.
And has there been any?
Airport.
No, I know it's I'm sorry. Okay. Abandoned aircraft. Under new business, okay.
I sort of alluded to that in my report. We're now, and I think I have a month's worth of tracking in regards to that. Now it's a matter of following up with some of the different entities. There's a caravan out there that's not part of Straubby's painting outfit that's been there for at least a month. We'll run the end number and then start to contact these folks and ask them for rental. It appears that we've become a haven for a bunch of aircraft that don't want to pay tie down. And so we will be reaching out to those folks to do just that, which has not been the case in the past.
Do you have someone that goes around every morning to look for planes that have been left overnight that are not paying a monthly fee?
A yes and a no to that. We don't do it every morning at this point. We're now doing it once a week. In the past, we didn't do it at all. And this was one of the findings when we had our last financial audit just a few months ago. The auditor basically said, nope, you need to start tracking that, which leads you to the next step of what's abandoned, what isn't. And then I think there's a Mooney that's out of Henderson that's been here as long as I have, that's never paid us a lick of tie down. So it's a matter of who owns the airplane, sending something to them, and then getting payment, or putting a mechanic's lien if that's appropriate on the airplane.
So my understanding is somebody flies in to have lunch at the restaurant or to do business during the day, and they fly out that evening. There's no charge.
That is correct.
If they spend the night, they would owe us, what, $5?
Yes. And a monthly, it's 25.
And monthly is 25.
Yes.
So if we're tracking that once a week, it's feasible somebody could land on Tuesday and take off on Friday, and if you do your check on Monday, they got to stay here for free, basically.
That is correct. I mean, in a sense here, we're starting kind of in a broad sense of once a week. That'll get down to 2 or 3 times a week. Eventually, it'll get to daily, but to not overburden staff.
Sure.
And that's the other piece of it. We're using Google Earth as maps that you basically just write the end numbers on, as opposed to drawing up a map. So it's just putting in all the infrastructure to automatically do this, as you're sort of leading to.
Okay, thank you.
Guess I should add something on this issue of abandoned aircraft. Generally, if somebody parks a car in your front yard or over here in the city yard, it doesn't take too long, and you can tow it away, and there's a lien on it, the tow yard, and so on. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way with airplanes. And it does in most locations, but it doesn't in Arizona. The legislature must have decided once upon a time that since there were so many stored airplanes here, all these airliners are worth a lot of money in parts, so they want it all. And they set it up so that the airport or the city or the county has to do all the work and hire the lawyer, but they get all the money. So that's why typically nothing happens. And we've got to find a solution to that. And if it's that bad, there's no other way. I think it's time to talk to the legislature about changing the law. Certainly the city is entitled to first recover what they invested in going through the legal actions. And I'll say that for announcement. Okay, now, minimum standards. Any other questions or comments on abandoned aircraft?
So
the
minimum,
DC 4 is not, or 3 is not, 4 is not abandoned. He's still paying rent.
Good.
yeah. So on minimum standards, again, I've come across, I have not read them, some minimum standards from the KAA. There have been little, I'll call it pop-up things that have occurred. And having had the misfortune to attempt to do minimum standards at other airports, as you can imagine, because they cover a lot of distance and many different topics, it's a huge project. So what I would propose is addressing the minimum standard issue here in sort of a paragraph or a couple of paragraphs per item. And some of the ones that I'll just share with you that just come off the top of my head, no dumping in the closed dump out there at the airport. I mean, a lot of this stuff is common sense, but nonetheless. No smoking within 100 feet of an aircraft or a fuel pump. No discharge of firearms on the airport. And mind you, I would probably change that and say firearms within the fenced area of the airport, since the county used to have a gun range where the Army Corps used to aim their guns on B-17s, and every now and then on a Friday afternoon, you'll hear a pop, pop, pop out there. Again, it's airport property, but it's outside the fence. So I'd probably change that one. All pets must be on leashes, so we don't have dogs. And again, it's not been a major issue. It comes up occasionally where they're just running all over the place. And then the only vehicles that need to be on the air side of the airport need to be connected to an airside business. So again, what I'm thinking is maybe a paragraph for each of those, and common sense sort of things. So any thoughts on that?
Needed speed limit too,
Good point, yes.
the vehicle speed limit.
Did I understand you to say that you don't want any firearms inside the fence?
No, discharge.
I did not say, this is Arizona, I did not say.
Okay.
Any discharge of firearms with inside the fence.
Fine. Thank you.
And as time goes by, I would bring, and once I write something up, I will bring that before you. You'll all look at it. We have some comments, and that starts to go into an overall minimum standards or policies document for the airport. And then I just add other items as they come up.
But if you have some ideas where that could be misconstrued, you know, the definition isn't adequate, something, now's a good time to throw it out there if it hits you, because this is not a formal approval, but it's Steve, you're going the right direction on this issue, and that sounds okay. I think you kind of should leave, he should leave feeling that way if we don't say anything.
I mean, another item that we just talked about was tie-down fees. And that's something, and again, this is going to morph as we talked about. Okay, we go out and we do a inventory once a week. But the premise being that when you come in, we have a box, which I don't think is easily seen in today's world, and some signage on the ramp that basically says it's $5 a day. Not for a transient, like you were talking about, Dave, where you fly in for the day, you go to the restaurant, maybe you go downtown, you come back, and you fly out. But if you're overnight, $5 a day, but with signage and with a easily seen box where people can put a $5 in there or a check or what have you.
Well, I think there is a drop box currently.
There is, but it's
Does it get used at all?
Very rarely.
Very rarely. It's the location and the fact it just sort of blends in with everything around it. You don't see it.
Because I fly into Glendale frequently, and if you're there overnight, probably shortly before dawn, there's somebody out there putting a rubber band and an envelope on your propeller, or I guess if you had a jet, I don't know where they'd put it, but putting it on your aircraft saying, hey, you need to give us some money.
And we will be working towards that. I wanted to sort of do it in baby steps.
Okay, thanks.
I think there's an element of how much money can we raise and how much trouble is it worth to do that?
Yeah, and certainly if you're doing that 30 days a month and you generate $15, it's probably not worth it.
I don't think they got very much out of the other one. I know when New Zealand privatized all of their airports, they put boxes out there, and they had like at least $15 landing fees. And I checked some of the boxes. I drove around the airports. There was never anything in it. Yeah. So it's a collection problem.
These minimum standards and policies, would those be posted on signs by the gates or?
More than likely, not posted on signs or gates, but again, we'll end up with a packet. And the other airports I've worked at, typically it's 15 to 20 pages, and it just lists all these different things. Again, we could probably post a copy in the terminal or over in the airport building that people can look through.
Okay.
One of the problems with these is that they can be enforced contractually, that if you're a tenant and you're violating it, you can call that a breach of the tenancy agreement. But unless it's codified in the city code, and I'm not sure, since the airport is not in the city, if the city police could even enforce it, it would have to be in the city code, enforced by the county, and the sheriff would come when he wants to. You see, it's a sticky wicket problem.
Yeah.
If you want real teeth. If you just want to be telling people what is acceptable behavior, and it's that type of enforcement, then that works. Definitely works. And make it fair and reasonable, of course. Okay, any other comments?
You had mentioned earlier that you were going to discuss shades, but it's not on the agenda.
Correct. So let's go to the announcements, and I could do that as an announcement. I did talk to Jack with Steel Erectors, and he has the same shade, not the Quonset hut, but the shade building. And he said $106,000, including labor to build it, but you have to supply the footings. So the engineering, the concrete, and the steel in the ground, he does everything above ground, is not covered. And that's a budget number. You know, it'll go up and down with the price of steel, as that's what most of it is. So it's probably a little bit better. And one question I have, Steve, that kind of a budget number, could you get that out of Lance?
I'm sorry, I think, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, I don't think there's any discussion allowed during the announcements portion of the
Okay,
meeting.
sorry.
If I may just add an item which I forgot to in my report. I think I had mentioned to all of you that we'd be talking about the budget at this meeting. That's been put off. We're going to do that at the April meeting. So put that on your calendars. We'll be talking about the CIPs and the operating budget for the airport at the next meeting.
Okay. Any other announcements?
Yes, I'm sorry. Oh, Tim, you want to make an announcement?
I was just going to make an announcement that the nonprofit that's working on the future museum for the airport, the Aviation Heritage Center, Kingman, they last weekend took possession of the first World War II aircraft project they're going to be working on with a North American T-6. It is at Kingman Airport now, and there's a second World War II aircraft project in the process of being acquired right now. So that's the news on that one.
The Mesquite Airport has requested that the EAA chapter do a Young Eagles rally, and we're going to be doing a Young Eagles rally in Mesquite on the 21st of March. We've got 4 aircraft that are going up to fly kids in Mesquite.
Okay. Do we have any comments from the public? Nobody has stepped up yet. Nobody? All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I shall move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 so much. We need